Thank you, Rob. All right, my friends, I found Alice. Alice, you will notice, is wearing a beautiful stole, which was her ordination stole, which was made by Edie Holder and given by this congregation with love and blessings for her ministry. Sean, would you begin us with some music, and would you tell us what you're playing and why it matters?
We're going to start with a tune called Hamaba Jata, and it's a 300-year-old tune, and it's basically used as a call to gather. Hamaba Jata.
Mori matsukole, Hamaba Jata, ye matsukole, Hamaba. Ye matsukole, Mori matsukole, Hamaba Jata, ye matsukole, Hamaba. Ye matsukole, Hamaba. Seila lehi jaka, jabija karombe seila jaka, jabija. Ye matskule hamaba. Ye matskule, mori matskule, hamaba jata. Ye matskule hamaba. Ye matskule hamaba. Hamaba Jata, ye matskule hamaba. Ye matskule hamaba. Ye seila jaka, seila lehi jaka, jabija karombe seila jaka, jabija. Ye matskule hamaba.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Alice, would you like to join me in lighting the chalice? Would you like to light the chalice while I read the words? Or would you like to read the words?
I'll read the words.
Okay. That's the most unique singing bowl we've had so far.
That picks up. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the Church of the Open Mind, the Church of the Loving Heart, and the Helping Hands. Together, we care for each other and the Church.
Just my earpiece? Yes? No feedback? All right. Hi. I'm Mitra Jafarzadeh, Reverend Mitra Jafarzadeh, and I am a Unitarian Universalist minister, and I am Iranian and American. More specifically, I am Appalachian in Kurdish. But these past few weeks, I have been in the mountains of Appalachia, visiting with family I have not seen for more than a decade. We had something of a family reunion, and we had a funeral for my Aunt Vaughn, and it was encouraging, and it was defining, and it was an important time. My mother, who was 83 years old, and she's a strong-willed woman, but not always a physically strong woman. She picked up COVID, as well as 9 other people there picked up COVID. So this last week has been difficult, but I am grateful that we have the flexibility to do what we've done and to take care of what needs to be taken care of. At some point in this week, I sat down to watch a movie as a form of escapism. It was just for the fun of it. And it was a superhero movie because I like movies like that. You know, you kind of know how things are shaped because we live in a society, or maybe just as people, there are patterns which we can rely on. And sometimes those patterns are good and sometimes those patterns aren't good, but there are patterns that are somewhat predictable. So I sit down to watch this movie, and it stars this really cute kid, this little kid, and his character's name is Sam. Cute kid. And it stars the guy that played Rocky, whatever his name is. But in the movie, his name is Joe. So you've got Sam and Joe, like Sam I Am Sam, and Average Joe Joe. And then also, I should tell you, I have a hearing loss. So when I watch TV, I often do it with the closed caption, and they tell you the name of the character who's speaking. So Sam is Sam and Joe is Joe, and then the bad guy shows up and he's Cyrus, which is, you know, a good old Persian name, King Cyrus, Cyrus cylinders, y'all know this stuff. And then the other bad guy shows up and his name is Reza. Reza is a Farsi word, it's a Persian name, means king. And the other guy shows up and his name is Farshad, which is it's an ancient Persian name and word. It used to refer to Mars and was used to describe the kings of old. So I'm sitting there with my Iranian American self watching the silly movie just for escape from the realities of this world, and I get Sam I Am and Average Joe versus Cyrus, Farshad, and Reza. You might be tempted to ask me how this movie ends, but I cannot tell you because I did not watch the end of the movie. I chose to turn it off. Our world is awash in histories of bigotry. You can't be American, you can't move in this space on this land without always knowing somehow or other in your bones that this is a land conquered through genocide, and this is a land built by enslavers who enslaved people, and that is the basis of our, it's just part of the air we breathe. I honestly thought we were making really great strides with homophobia and transphobia, and then this new wave of legislation and like book banning and teachers, what's going on, folks? It's like, I thought we could let our guard down, but we cannot let our guard down. We have to be vigilant for the cause of those who identify across the gender spectrum. We don't have the option of not paying attention. And the truth is, all the bigotries that exist in the world outside of this church exist in the world inside of this church. Did I just say that here in this church you will find racism, Islamophobia, homophobia, and transphobia? Yes, I did, because we're human beings, and this is the culture we swim in. It would be really, it would be a miracle if we could just set it all down. The difference is, here in church, we endeavor to pay attention and we try to do better. We try to be better. The fact is, church has always existed to offer an alternative to the dominant culture, right? So there's the dominant culture, and then there's a subset of people who say, I see things and I see the values that are being portrayed, and I think I want something better for myself and my company and my children. And we seek something different. That's the way church has always worked. So, hi, I'm Mitra, and I choose church because I believe that herein lies the possibility of living differently, of living with respect and curiosity and humility and awe. It is my privilege to welcome you this morning to this imperfect and long-lasting and joyful endeavor. So come into this place if you want to rest in the company of those who seek the good and serve the good. Come if your heart is tugged towards justice. Come if you are joy-filled and confident, and come when your faith in humanity wavers. Come whoever you are, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. And if you would like to know more about us and our work, I invite you to fill out an orange card in at the welcome table out here, and get on our mailing list. You will find that we do many, many things in many, many ways with many different combinations of people, and there is a place for you. Whoever you are, wherever you find yourself, you are welcome here. Our opening hymn is number 197, Numerous Strings in Your Harp. I invite you to enjoy the song, enjoy the singing, and mind the message. Rob will lead us.
Obviously, 197, right? I'm going to walk through. We ran through it here with a couple people, but we thought it would be fitting. Sean, what is this instrument again?
This is the kora.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a 21 or 22 string harp, usually native to the Mandinka people, which are one of about 7 different ethnic groups in the country of Gambia in northwest Africa, where I studied this instrument.
Okay. I thought it was fitting. So as we go through this wonderful song, think about how you maybe can be incorporated into today's service, the strings that you play, the roles that you play, and we'll be incorporating it throughout the entire sermon. So Sean is going to play a little intro. For those of you that don't read music, look in your books for a second, because I wanted to help you find where we're going. We've only sung this hymn a couple of times. We're going to sing that first refrain up at the top, and then it says, see to verses 1 through 3. Well, there's numbers, right? So we go to first 1, then when you smite your chords, we'll do that, and then we go all the way back to the beginning and sing there are numerous strings. And then we go to find the 2 on the second page, and we sing that amidst your numberless stars, let me place my own little lamp, and then we go all the way back to the beginning, and then we go all the way to 3 on the third page. No intent to offend anyone, but just follow the numbers. We'll give you a moment to find them. But I'll sing good and loud, and hopefully we make it there. So if everybody please rise, and Sean will accompany us in There Are Numerous Strings. Little intro.
In the words of our shared affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. My friends, I told you just a minute ago in the welcome that I come to church because I believe that here is a place where we can be countercultural. One of the ways that we are countercultural is to practice this art of hospitality for the cause of creating a community that is greater than any one individual. So what I'm saying is that individuality in some very real way is overrated. As beautiful and lovely as we all are as individuals, we are so much more beautiful. We can do so much more when we come together. There are numerous strings in your harp. There are so many stars in the sky. Every one of them shines brightly, but in constellation, we can be so much more. It is time to share in our joys and sorrows. This is one of the ways that we at St. John's support each other in community. I invite you to come forward and choose a stone from the bowl of stones and place it in the dish of sand. When you do this, with all of your neighbors, you will create a unique and beautiful mosaic. If you are joining us online, I invite you to text me your joy or sorrow, and I will place a stone for you. All right, and Sean's going to play for us while we go through this ritual. If you are new here, you are absolutely invited to participate, and please, I invite the children to come as well. We have a few added joys. Melissa Rowland shares joy today. My mother is 66 years old, so for her 66th birthday. Jeannie would like a stone placed for her son. Jeannie, we remember and we send love. And Wanda Crawford writes, gratitude for the beautiful service and healing thoughts for my mom. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, my friends, will you join with me in an attitude of prayer? Actually, before we do that, let's just be real about when we are. Today is the 11th of September, 9/11. It is the 21st anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Centers. So I know that for all of us who are old enough to remember, that day is seared in our memory. And some of those memories are intensely painful. And we should acknowledge that. And I look around and I realize there's a whole generation. Children who were born that year are turning 21. 21. That's a whole generation. And their entire lives have been shaped by the circumstances of that day. There are many things that can be lifted up from that time, but I want to call our attention to two things. The first is that we talk about being a world community and how what affects one of us affects all of us. Nothing could have brought that message home more than the attacks on the World Trade Center. Not only because it was an expression of international anger and angst, but also because those who died represented people from all over the whole wide world. We are part of something larger. The second thing I want to remind us of is the absolute heroic and commonplace dignity, goodness, and helpfulness that followed the attack. Do you remember in the days right after how people stepped up, in the hours after, how people moved to help? Do you remember how people sought out ways to help heal the world and not hurt it? There was an extraordinary snapshot of the power of goodness in our humanity. As we enter into a time of silence, I would like to invite you to consider that goodness is always with us, has always been with us, is with us, and will always be with us. The question is, how do we choose to engage the goodness over the anger? The question is, with this generation of kids coming of age, coming into adulthood, how will we model for them what the world can be? I would like to invite us into a time of silence, and Sean will play us out with some beautiful music.
Called Kyra, which means let there be peace.
Fama laila laila Kulabena Timanam Kaira Waila laila Allah laila Fama laila laila Kulabena Timanam Kaira Kulabena Timanam Kaira Kulabena Timanam Kaira
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so full confession, I'm really, really, really happy that y'all came today because I was sort of afraid that it was going to be my last Sunday before sabbatical and like nobody would show up. So, and by the way, this is my last Sunday before sabbatical. Alice, would you like to come up and hang out with me? So, as we were preparing for this morning, Alice kept saying, but you have to tell them about sabbatical. And I'm like, oh, do I really? And yes, so I am skipping town, and I am going to Transylvania. Transylvania is a region within the country of Romania. It is populated by people who are Hungarian. So, Romania, Romanian, Transylvania, a lot of Hungarians. A lot of those Hungarians are Unitarians. So I'm going to take my American Apo-Persian self and put it in the middle of the Hungarians in Romania for a few months. And if any of you remember Gail Boggs, yes, her son is going to come and spend some time with me out there. And my dear friend Kristen, who when we were like 14 years old, or maybe younger, Kristen had the thought to be a Unitarian minister. And you know what she's doing? She's working in tech in California. Greg just said it pays better. Yes, but she doesn't have the joy that I have, which is, I wouldn't give it up. She's going to come see me in Transylvania also. So this time there will be punctuated with some friends from home. But it is an intensely boundary-crossing experience. And part of the reason, I love Transylvania. I just love it. This is my 4th, 5th trip, something like that, yeah. I just keep going back. So I figure if I go and I stay for like 2.5 months, maybe I'll cure myself and I won't have to go back again, right? So it's a possibility. But there are all sorts of ways in which we all feel called to go to new places. Alice standing here was a student here in this church. But you have to understand, when she came here as a student, she had already served as a nurse, worked as a researcher, and earned her PhD. So she came here as like student doctor Alice Stiebel. Yes. And even if you want to talk about your call to, because you weren't called to this ministry per se.
Right. Even when I started school, it wasn't really because I wanted to serve a parish. My interest was in the racism that we see in our criminal justice system, our criminal legal system. And I thought, I have to do something about this. What can I do? So I decided I would become a minister because we can use our voices in ways that people can hear it.
This is called the prophetic call, or
Yes.
the prophetic imperative. So like in a small way, when I'm watching that movie and I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me, and I turn it off, that's a little bit of the prophetic imperative. When Alice says, the world is broken, how can I help serve? That's a lot of the prophetic imperative,
Right.
yes.
And there's also the heart of the pastor that's involved. Right. When I got into research, my heart kind of got pushed to the back, and I needed to bring that forward again. My nursing heart, but a pastor's heart's a little bit different. So learning to accompany people on this journey of incarceration and re-entry into society, we call people returning citizens. Well, what does that mean? How do you get out of the yard and into society again? So that's where I've focused my ministry, and it's still my calling. It's had its ups and downs, and you'll hear a little bit more about it throughout the time, but yeah.
When you talk about your research and how you have worked with people, can you talk a little bit about that so they understand some of what you're bringing?
Well, so I was a nurse, and then I was a researcher, and now I'm a minister. Someone told me once, well, you finally got spirit and body and mind all together. I hope so anyway. But as a researcher, we really learn to observe the world. And as a pastor, we learn to follow the hearts of whatever's going on with the person in front of us.
When you were in seminary, did you have those congregational studies classes?
We did. In fact, this congregation was my textbook.
Yeah. Where this might freak you all out a little bit, but we are taught in some way to look at the congregation as a system with a history and dynamics that play in the life of the congregation that are bigger than any individual. Does that bother you? I'm just curious. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's part of because we think that we're individuals and we think that we set our own course, but if you look at congregations have characters, and it follows them over 100, 150, 200 years. So that is really part of what congregational studies does, and part of what you did in seminary, and what I did in seminary, and what everybody who goes to seminary does. It's part of learning to take that calling and put some flesh and bones on it so that you can live it out in the world. So, and we, poor Sean, this very nice, innocent musician here who is with us did not know what he was stumbling into. But one of the things you said when we talked is you talked about your engagement with this instrument, which has shaped your life as a calling. Would you tell us about how that worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I stumbled across the kora literally in 2006 in a live performance. Absolutely changed the course of my life. I was musically inclined from an early age, having played the clarinet, which is a much different instrument than the kora. And I started taking lessons shortly thereafter with another American-born kora player like myself. And after about a year of studying with him, he put me in touch with two teachers in Gambia, West Africa, which is where I went in 2008, 2012, and 2018. And for each of the 3 visits, I received anywhere between 4 and 8 hours of lessons a day from Moriba Kuyate, and he's the adopted son of my second teacher, the late Malamini Jabate, who passed away about a year after my 2012 visit. And they really not only taught me how to play kora, they took care of me like I was family. At the time, in 2008, before the social media explosion, it was still a phone call to introduce myself. So I called them after Kane gave me the number, and I introduced myself and said, my name is Sean, and I really am interested in learning kora from you. Would you be willing to teach? And Malamini's response was, that's absolutely wonderful. Just let us know when you're coming and we'll pick you up at the airport. And so a lot of what I embody in my playing is from their direct teachings. And as someone who's an outsider, not native to the Mandinka, not native to the griots, who are the oral historians who share this music, I feel like I am a facilitator, so to speak, of a not not trying to put forth my own interests over what was taught to me, because the music itself is so sacred, and it's my goal to be able to share what I've learned over the years from my teachers.
You sound so respectful of the culture, and also you went in as a learner, open, curious, willing to soak it up. What was that like?
A life-changing experience. Every step you can imagine, from the learning to getting to know every individual family member in ways that I would my own family. Learning Kora itself was actually a lot different than learning music here. Like if you're learning guitar or clarinet or trumpet, for instance, you may be reading sheet music on a piece of paper. Over there is no sheet music, so you basically learn a given melody, but you're not really taught much beyond that, because everyone kind of likes you to give it your own feeling. Like even me as an outsider, I was encouraged by my teachers to come up with my own embellishments, if you will, based on certain things I may have heard from my teachers, but from other musicians as well. And so if you listen to multiple different kora players throughout the world, everyone sounds a little bit different because of that style of learning. Meals were a very interesting experience. So food would generally be served in large bowls that I would say 4 up to 8 people would sit around and share from together. And you'd have cooked white rice at the bottom with a variety of different sauces per bowl. Palm oil was a pretty common base that you would use to coat the rice with. And then over the top, you would have multiple vegetables. So like carrots, cabbage, eggplant, cassava, onions, garlic, things like that. And then for meats, you would have chicken or fish, and the items were actually served in the bowls in very large chunks, if you will. So people would actually eat with their right hand because of this. You could use utensils, which were readily available. I found it easier to use my hand based on how the food was served because of this. And like if they used fish, they'd wrap the whole fish in tin foil, cook it on an open fire on a grate, and then once the fish was done, it would get put like right on top of the on the dish. So I mean, you'd be looking at the fish as the fish was looking back at you, kind of ready to be eaten. So that's kind of an experience of meals, so to speak of. And then my first couple of visits, my lesson with the late Malamini Jabate would happen during the evening time. He was what we may consider to be the equivalent of a counselor. He'd go around to different extended family compounds to work with people who may be having difficulty. People live with their extended families anywhere between 7 and 35 in number. So you'd be living with your aunts, your uncles, your parents, your children, your grandchildren. And so he'd come back late in the evening, and those evenings that I had with him, maybe 2 or 3 per week, were some of the most absolutely rewarding experiences in my life, because being one of the elders, he had a very distinct style of playing and focused strictly, I should say, on traditional songs, which in the wave of social media is starting to change a lot. So the younger generation definitely embodies the tradition, but they're also incorporating different sorts of music from all over the world into their kora playing.
There's so much there. Oh my goodness. So I want to lift up a few things, which is, St. John's has a tremendous history of musical engagement. We have a gigantic music endowment that was, what is the year that was created? Anybody, like 1940 something? Someone knows when our music endowment was. We've had a music endowment for a long time, but I can't speak with certainty, but I suspect this is the first time we've had the kora played in the congregation. At least it's the first time in a long time. And it's so interesting because it is a different take on music itself. I mean, you're telling me that the music and the musician is also dynamically related to the counseling and the family life and to the tradition of ages. And at the same time, you're telling me that it's not static, that you're expected to put your own personality in. What do y'all think?
Sounds right.
It's cool, it's complicated, and it's interesting. The food was all halal, right? Because the community was the food halal? I don't know.
No, it was a mix of rice and vegetables and meat primarily.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you didn't see bread used very often.
Yeah. This is like a whole other world. Were you, well, I will say this. I think the only way that any of us walk away from the life we know and go immerse ourselves in a learning experience like that is if you are called. And you said it was a life-changing experience. When we talked about jazz theology, we talked about jazz music, we talked about jazz, the call and response in jazz as being sort of representative of the relationship between spirit and self, that we feel called in some way by spirit and we have to respond. When we talk about the prophetic imperative, we feel called to respond to the injustice of the world. In the tradition that you were telling about, there is also a call and response pattern in song, right? And I'm going to invite you to lead us in that, but I feel like given that we are a church dedicated to peace and peacemaking, we might want to begin with some explanation. Yes.
Absolutely. So there was a lot of participation that happened with this music that I witnessed. And so first off, it was rare to hear the kora performed solo like you're seeing now. They would usually be accompanied by other instruments like the balafon, which is a wooden xylophone that's played with one mallet in each hand. The ngoni, which is a lute that is played more like a guitar, where you hold the strings down on a neck while you strum them with the other. And you'd also have drums, like the djembe, which is home to a country in Guinea, West Africa, further south of Gambia. But you'd also have guitars and things, like electric guitars, electric bass, and electric keyboards, and they'd all be plugged into a huge sound system that would blast out to the audience like it was a rock concert. And at these events was often more when you'd find the participation. So with this song, I like to embody that concept. This is actually a battle song that we're going to sing together. And in Mandinka, it basically talks about a battle that was taking place. And so there's a 3-word response line that I'm hoping you can all help me sing. So the 3 Mandinka words, when translated to English, they mean the sword did not pierce Tira Makan. So Tira Makan is the person that the song is for, which the song is named after. So first off, I'd just like you to say each of the 3 words after me, one at a time. The first word is Susa.
Susa.
The second word, Rejo.
Rejo.
And the last word is the name of the person and the name of the song, Tira Makan.
Tira Makan.
Good. Now say Susa, Rejo, Tira Makan.
Susa, Rejo, Tira Makan.
Excellent. And when it's sung, it sounds like this. Just go ahead and sing it back to me after I sing it to you. It goes, Susare jo tira makan, Susare jo tira
My turn. Susare jotira makan. Your turn.
Susare jotira makan.
Susare jotira makan.
Susare jotira makan.
Excellent. So there's 3 call lines that I sing to lead us into that response. The first is muru yebang tira makan. So we're basically saying the sword is near. Then we respond with susa rejo tira makan. The sword did not pierce tira makan. And then I'll say keleke muru yebang tira makan. So keleke is a person saying that the sword is near. And then you respond with susa rejo tira makan. And then the last call line that I will say, ifa tira makan, iba tira makan. Fa is father, ba is mother. So we're saying, essentially, the mother and father of Tira Makan, they are basically giving him a blessing, like wishing him well, wishing him good fortune as he enters into a very difficult situation. So let's try it. I will guide you in. It goes. Muru yebang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, keleke muru yebang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, iba tira makan, ifa tira makan, susare jo tira makan, ifa tira makan, iba tira makan, susare jo tira makan. Excellent. So that's the basis, and we'll go ahead and mix it in with the kora for Tira Makan. Muru ibang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, keleke muru ibang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, iba tira makan, ifa tira makan, susare jo tira makan, iba tira makan, ifa tira makan, susare jo tira makan. Muru yebang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, keleke muru yebang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, iba tira makan, ifa tira makan, susare jo tira makan, iba tira makan, ifa tira makan, susare jo tira makan. Tira makan, susare jo tira makan, keleke muru yebang tira makan, susare jo tira makan, iba tira makan, ifa tira makan, susare jo tira makan, ifa tira makan, iba tira makan, susare jo tira makan. Susare jo tira makan kelke muru yebang tira makan. Susare jo tira makan iba tira makan ifa tira makan. Susare jo tira makan iba tira makan tira makan. Susare jo tira makan.
That was the sweetest, loveliest battle song I have ever heard. So I want to leave you with this. Every one of us has a call. Sometimes it looks like the call of clergy. Sometimes it calls you halfway around the world to invest yourself in a whole new life. But everyone is called. And what I said about when I talked about Alice and congregational studies, this church is called. St. John's is called. Discerning that call, deciding how this community will be a blessing to the world, how we will be a place where beloved community can be realized, made flesh and bone. That is the work of this congregation, especially over this time of sabbatical. I am running off to Romania partly because I am utterly humbled and fascinated by the laity and how they have maintained the faith over so many trials and changes. But make no mistake, maintaining the faith is difficult work. Answering the call it's easy when we're being led in song. It's harder when we're being led in spirit. Alice, I give you my church. And I will return in January, but Alice will be with you. Until then, I want you to take from this morning the value of awe and beauty and curiosity and humility, and knowing who your ancestors are, knowing that you are before us, but you are carrying the song of those who taught you and those who taught them, and that reminder that we are in community. You know, is there any greater symbol of communion than the family sitting around one plate, one dish, in the Alexander Campbell, the one loaf, the one body. And our job as church is to keep telling the stories that brought us this far in a way that will lead us into the world we believe we can make. And that's as good as it gets, folks. So to that end, it's time to take up an offering to sustain the work of this church and enjoy some more beautiful kora music. So I invite you to give as you are willing and able. Did I cover everything, Alice? Did I leave anything out? Okay, good.
This is a song called Mali Sajo.
could get any further away from the clarinet. I think that's like, yes. I'm so grateful that you found this instrument. I'm so grateful that you invested your life, quite frankly, in this. When will you return to Gambia?
Hopefully next year.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Yes. So he will be with us. We're going to, after service, take a short break, get something to get a cup of coffee, like do what you need to do, and then come back and you'll get to learn more about the instrument and hear more of it. If you're hungry, order a pizza from Dewey's. It's all good. We can make it happen. We have a few announcements, though, before we break. One of them is that Found House, which used to be Interfaith Hospitality Network, this is the organization that uses church buildings to shelter homeless families. They had been really struggling over COVID time, and even until recently had been placing families in hotels. They are back to placing families in church buildings, and they need your help. Wanda Crawford is our point person for that, and she is organizing. I know when it was time to provide meals for families in the hotel, a whole lot of us stepped up and helped out. And that is very, very good. Let me suggest that it's even better when you could do so in person. It's kind of odd, just like being the DoorDash delivery person and leaving it at the hotel entrance. It's much better when you can break bread with people. Literally, break bread with people and be together with them. So I encourage you to reach out to Wanda and find out ways that you can support Found House. Many years ago, Nicole came to many years ago, an embarrassingly number of years ago, Nicole came to my office and said, I'm doing this thing, do you think St. John's would like to do it with me? So the thing that she was doing was participating in Walk Out of Darkness, which is a fundraising walk to raise awareness for suicide prevention, but it's also a big, giant celebration of life. It is quite joyful and remarkable, and I supported them right up until they moved the walk to Sunday after church. And I was like, your mission is good, but your timing is terrible. That's just me. But they're going to be back. I'm going to invite Nicole. Will you take the pulpit and tell us what to expect? Because this is coming up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, it kind of snuck up on me. It's only 4 weeks away. October 9th. I understand there is some conflict with the Master Planning Committee, but that's okay because you can still support the AFSP, which is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Primarily, they focus on advocacy. They were a big part in getting the new 988 line. Yes. And this walk helps support both people who have been affected by suicide and those who have struggled with the thoughts or the issues with suicide. So this year, the walk is October 9th, and it's even worse because it's at 1 o'clock.
Oh.
At Sawyer Point. So if you can't make the walk itself, I understand. I'll be there, but you are certainly welcome to come. You can register online. My daughter Kaya and I are out there by the door with a couple computers set up just to make life easy for you. I even have a QR code this year.
Ooh, excellent.
So we certainly accept the online donations through credit card, cash, check, Venmo. We'll figure it out. And of course, registration helps our numbers and everything. And incidentally, this is open to other churches in the area. So last year, Heritage got involved too. I wonder if we could make more than them.
You're poking that little competitive spirit thing, aren't you?
Would I do that?
I would love to get back from sabbatical and hear that we were the best.
Our biggest fundraising year was over $3,000.
Wow.
So I think we can do that. Just saying.
Okay, and St. John's, I want to tell you all something. Like, what's coming up before this is a walk to fund research for ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. My aunt, who just died, we had her funeral, she died of ALS. And my sister is currently staying with my mother's husband because he has ALS. This disease is like really sneaky and it pops up everywhere and whatever. So St. John's and other churches in the area are walking in that walk, and we've got this walk. And Nancy, do you know when the Matthew 25 walk is? Is that November? So I'm just going to put this out to all y'all. If that's the Appalachian. So for all y'all, if you ever wanted to organize like a St. John's walking team, that would be like, you could get shirts made like St. John's walks. I don't know. You could just, is that not exciting?
They have a fundraiser through the AFSP to design and purchase T-shirts for your team. Just saying.
Yes. So when I talk about being better together and supporting one another, this is a great example of that. Thank you, Nicole, for giving us this opportunity.
Let me know if you have questions.
Yes. And I'm going to invite Alice to do the benediction. I was going to give her my keys, but with everything happening with my mom, I'm not quite ready to hand them over. I'll hand them over tomorrow.
First.
Oh, we're going to sing this song. This song is everything. We come from the fire, the mountain, whatever, the water. If we see each other and know who we are, we could turn the world around with respect, humility, and awe. I believe it. I believe this song. All right, Rob's going to lead us.
With Sean. Sean's going to try.
So this is the truest thing I know. We are people of water and spirit and mountain and sunlight. Oh, I just automatically go into the benediction. I'm sorry. I am deferring. I am letting that go. I am handing it over.
And you're going to really miss her preaching. I know that. I know that.
It is hard.
I'd like to invite the board chair, Mike Nugent, to come up, please. Board president is probably the right word, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, before we have the benediction. Yep.
With your knees.
Good morning. So, as Reverend Alice mentioned, if you don't know, I'm the current board president. So on behalf of the board and the St. John's congregation, Reverend Mitra, I want to thank you for everything you do. We hope that your sabbatical is restful and restorative. You will be missed, and come home to us soon. And these are for you.
Thank you. When I first went into ministry, I had little bitty children, like little bitty children. And people said, why are you spending your time with the church instead of your children? Which is it's a false narrative, right? But the truth is, I spend my time with the church because I believe that there is a better way. And I don't think it comes from any of us going it on our own. I think it only happens if we work together. Because of that, it is hard to walk away. And I look forward to walking away, and I look forward to coming back. And I don't know a truer thing than we are different and we are the same. And it is only through seeing each other clearly that we can turn the world around. So thank you. And thank you, Sean.
This is a time, we have 4 months of time for reflection and renewal and taking stock. I'm not Reverend Mitra, but I am called to support her in this sabbatical. So we will do that together. She has introduced a book by Stephen Charleston called Ladder to the Light. And this month's theme is hope. So I'm using something from that book as our benediction. Renewed. Be renewed in your faith, strengthened in all you believe. Be blessed in your spirit, lifted up once more to do what your heart tells you is your calling. Be filled now with a holy energy, made young once more to continue your search for the sacred. All along our journey, the Spirit is there to help us when we grow discouraged, to support us when we feel tired. We are offered a cup of cool water from the deep springs of love. Feel the power of your own hope returning. See the vision that once inspired you glow again with the fire of heaven. Be renewed in your faith and strengthened in all you believe. Go in peace and come back for music.
Thank you.
Will you walk me to the back?
Yes.